Welcome everyone to another quarter of prime and awesome delivery of relevant information and insight. It's great to be your host again. I'm Abiodun Abari, and the theme for this quarter is sports and the geopolitical economy. I assure you that we are in for interesting and inspiring times ahead as we begin to do justice to our theme this quarter. Thankfully, last quarter, we were able to look at those relevant lessons business managers can imbibe from sports leadership, giving us a solid background to pivot us further in exploring the relationship, the connection between sports and the geopolitical economy, as it were, and the impact of sports and on the geopolitical economy and the use of sports in managing and advancing geopolitical and economic objectives. We must understand that as business managers who play in the global space, understanding all these interplays is quite very, very important. Even in the management of supply chain, enabling end-to-end visibility, that through the provision of actionable insights, and so that chief executives and business leaders in general can up their proactive decision-making game. The concept of the geopolitical economy in itself exists as a Marxist critique of the contemporary established theories of international relations and international political economy. Okay. And you reckon that the mainstream views of the global economy actually portray something seamless, that something united wholly by markets, or by a singular big player, or state, or nation state, or country, as it were, and which is in effect is an hegemony, as exemplified by the waning U.S. hold on international relations and the international political economy since the end of the Cold War. The geopolitical economy really asserts that the first theories of international relations should be predicated on the classical political economy and Marxist theories of imperialism. Okay, that the evolution and development of capitalism, involves, this interaction and interplay of political quantities, and which are actually sovereigns or states or nation states, as it were, and this actually deviates or departs from the contemporary or orthodox views. We must understand that the concept geopolitical economy functions as a totalist approach to truly understanding international relations in the capitalist global economy. Hence, we can actually hinge our school of thought or argument by the relevance and application of, geopolitical economy, as it were, on the theory of materiality of political entities, which we can also call nation states. That's in the first place, and also we also talk about the unevenness and a combined fashion of the development of capitalism that creates actually a multipolar tendency. Okay, that's what you have at the end of the day is multipolar in nature, as a result of the unevenness and the combined fashion of the development of capitalism, and of course counter globalization and counter U.S. hegemony theories. Okay, those are three main points or three main arguments that actually advance the theory of the geopolitical economy. Yes, we have to understand that the materiality of states, of nation states, that argument asserts the important role the nation states have to play in, the nation states here come in as being indispensable. They are indispensable social actors in managing the chaos or the contradictory value productions of capitalism. Okay, because as it were, the product of capitalism is actually contradictory value productions from one end to the other, and so the role of nation states as political entities in managing this scenario cannot be overemphasized. So looking at the uneven and combined manifestation of capitalism and the way it has developed, okay, you see that imperialism and anti-imperialism, okay, are actually engines for the international relations of capitalism. All right, and when we talk about imperialism in itself, it tends towards manifesting and maintaining unevenness of the development of capitalism. All right, and that is, we have a situation where there is real development, real progress in the core of capitalism. And when I say the core, I mean first world nation states. Okay, and while there is underdevelopment in other climes. All right, and of course we have anti-imperialism, which is actually a response from the underdeveloped climes. All right, and that response is actually by preventing, limiting, and counteracting imperialism by whatever means they think they can. Okay, that is actually fighting for their own survival and fighting for their own relevance. So, anti-imperialism itself is a response to imperialism. Okay, and it is by that these nation states that are not dominant, okay, that are at the receiving end of imperialism, can actually also be ambitious, as it were. So, in the present day context, let us look at the argument that a struggle has since existed between the imperialistic and hegemonic tendencies, and their desire to maintain the unevenness manifested by capitalism. All right. Okay. So we have the imperialistic and that's the imperial and hegemonic tendencies on the one hand, and their own objective is to maintain the unevenness that has been manifested by capitalism. And on the other hand, we have nation states that are resistant, that abhor such scenario of uneven development. Okay, and they might decide to also adopt a capitalist approach or a combined development approach, socialist combined development approach. All right, but basically they are, against imperialistic tendencies. All right, and they have to, fight for their own survival and fight for their own relevance. So let's look at that in the present day context. Okay, and we can arrive at a conclusion that the latter group has actually prevailed in that, that post-Cold War shift from a bipolar world to a unipolar world has not endured. Right? So, and the multipolarity of today's world and is actually amplified in various scenarios, despite the enormity and dominance of the opposition. Okay, first let's look at the acceptance and the performance and expansion of BRICS. Okay, that's acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Okay, as the BRICS, which was formed on 16 June 2009, and that's in Yekaterinburg, Russia. Initially had 4 members. That's Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And South Africa joined actually on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, I should think, in September 2010, when the foreign ministers met in New York. Foreign ministers of BRIC member nations met in New York. And of course, BRICS is headquartered in Shanghai, China, and it expanded in January this year, January 2024, accommodating welcoming Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and of course United Arab Emirates, UAE. And it's also important to note that the BRICS nations' share of the global GDP has surpassed the share of the G7 nations, the 7 most industrialized nations. BRICS for 2024, global GDP share is 35%, while that of G7 it's 30%. All right. So, and another manifestation that is obvious is the dollarization of oil transactions. You reckon that Russian sale of oil and gas on coal to China, and it's actually a lot of those transactions have been conducted in yuan. That's the Chinese currency, and that has been growing and growing, and China actually bought $88 billion worth of commodities from Russia in 2022. And although there has been some pushback from the West about China patronizing Russia and Russia being able to fund the conflict in Ukraine, but China has, as we all know, it's an independently strong nation that will not be dictated to in the scheme of things. And it's also important to note that although Russia is pressurizing India to also do those transactions in yuan, but because of a side conflict between Russia, China, and India, because of competition, they had border issues. Border issues recently, and the conflict, and so that India has been pushing back against conducting transactions with Russia in yuan, but basically significantly, and of course Saudi Arabia too has also shown willingness to also accept transactions in Chinese currency, and that actually undermines the dollar as a global reserve currency. Then we also look at the conflict in Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine conflict too, because actually brings to fore political realism. All right, and that political realism is relevant in the argument for and against provocation. Okay, because the argument of the West is that Russia's invasion of Ukraine actually was unprovoked, and but Russia is saying that there has been a warning and it was provoked into invading Ukraine to protect its own existence, that it was an existential threat, that Ukraine being on its border and had already compromised, and security-wise they had to move in, and the issues in the Donbass, and the repression, I mean, right from the coup of 2014 and the involvement of U.S. Undersecretary then Victoria Nuland was obvious to everyone, and and since then, when that happened, Russia had to move in and seize Crimea. I mean, then under Obama, and the conflict had been going on in the Donbass, and that was why the Minsk agreement, had to come in. But rather, the Minsk agreement was not effective, as it was not actually obeyed, and and that's, I think, last year or lately. The former German Chancellor Angela Merkel came out publicly to say that the Minsk agreement was just a ruse to buy time for Ukraine to arm itself. So little wonder it wasn't effective. And for Russia, I mean, going into Ukraine, I mean, a sovereign nation, that's actually political realism, as against political idealism. That although Ukraine is a sovereign country on its own, but the reality is that Russia will not allow a compromised Ukraine, as it were, and that's why the special operation, as it was called by Russia's president Vladimir Putin, is actually demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine. And you can also look back to the Cuba Missile Crisis of 1962, from 16th to 28th October 1962, during the Cold War, when the Soviet Union placed nuclear missiles in Cuba as a response to American placing missiles in Italy and Turkey. Okay. And of course, the West responded, using sports as a veritable tool, as a response, and, Russia was banned from all sporting competitions, national sporting competitions, from the Olympics and all that, and, from hosting and participation. So you can even benefit from sports business events, and even significantly, the Russian owner of Chelsea Football Club of England was forced to sell Chelsea, and at that time Chelsea lost a lot of goodwill as a result. Right. I'll also look at the South China Sea, and objectively we can say that yes, China is the dominant naval power in the South China Sea. I don't think the United States Navy can confront China as of today in the South China Sea without getting its butt kicked, as it were. So that is what we have, and you look at the situation as per elements of surprise, because even in this global confrontation, okay, as military confrontation, these elements of surprise has been removed because of the proliferation of communication satellites by China, Russia, and of course the United States. So there's no secrets among these three nations. You all know what one another is doing at any point in time, because you have satellites that can pick number plates, on the road, So the element of surprise, that edge is removed, and of course you also have the Arctic Circle too. Okay, where Russia itself is the only superpower because of its nuclear icebreaker. That is the only nation state exploring and exploiting resources, natural resources, in the Arctic Circle. But not to take anything away from the United States. With over 750 military bases in 80 countries around the world, and a defense budget of over $800 billion. The The occupier of the Oval Office in the White House is still the biggest influencer of world peace, with myriads of intelligence assets and proxies. And then we could argue that the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century undoubtedly catapulted the United Kingdom to being the singular superpower, but we reckon that by late 19th century, the United States, Germany, Japan, and others had successfully diluted Britain's hold, to create a multipolar order. And the US, in pursuing its own hegemonic ambitions, had to jettison empire acquisition, and just make the dollar the global currency. Okay, and we understand how the petrodollar came to be. The agreement was signed between the US and Saudi Arabia that Saudi Arabia will conduct all its oil transactions in the US and dollars. And really important to know that actually there are arguments as to the non-realization of this ambition of making the dollar the global reserve currency. Okay, so the concept of the global geopolitical economy is actually an antithesis to globalization. So, because globalization presents a scenario where nation states are not important, where nation states are underplayed, and also U.S. hegemony, where only one nation state matters. Okay, so geopolitical economy sees U.S. hegemony as an ideology, not a theory. Right? It actually mirrors distinct phases of the United States' rapacious pursuits of its elusive hegemonic ambitions. Yeah, the emergence of the multipolar world is evident, and it was not supported either by the orthodox theories of international relations. It portrays that the uneven and combined development of capitalism, the interplay and contestation between imperialism and anti-imperialistic forces, they're being the engine of the development of capitalism. Okay, that's what we have. That's the scenario that we have, and the multipolarity has actually been on the upward swing since the peak of imperialism in 1914. So, sports in itself very, very relevant in the geopolitical economy. In fact, we talk about the geopolitical economy of sports, right? And a crucial point in time was actually during the pandemic, when sports was stopped, and when it was reintroduced. It was actually done without physical spectators. Okay, and people were limited to their devices. All right, and actually, we can talk about the sensitivity of sports to the geopolitical economy, and in fact, like I said, we talk about the geopolitical economy of sports, and when Daryl Morey, the general manager of Houston Rockets in the United States, posted the comment on X, formerly Twitter, supporting the protesters in Hong Kong, then there was a response from the Chinese government. Okay, Chinese state media removed all NBA programs from its schedules until the end of 2020. And that really hurt the NBA finances, and the work that had been done on cultivating fan engagement, in China was undermined, and then of course we had a reversal in the United States basketball diplomacy. And of course, we also recall that Antoine Griezmann, French international footballer, withdrew from a personal endorsement with OI of China because of a report of a development of Hegel face recognition software. Of course, that's discrimination. Okay, and remember the China India border dispute of the mid 2020. That you also know that cricket is very prominent in India. India, a powerful nation, strong nation when it comes to cricket, dominant nation in the world when it comes to cricket, and the India Premier League cricket then ended its relationship with two of its Chinese telecom sponsors, Vivo and Oppo, as a result of that border dispute, which of course it was a little messy then, but thank God that it was further escalation was curtailed. So this commodification and commercialization of sports in this 21st century has typified, has been typified by these rights negotiations, sponsorship deals, sales of merchandise, and other revenue generating strategies. All right, and we can argue that this kind of disposition has its origin from the neoclassical economics and capitalism. All right, and now we have the Chinese and Gulf states, like Saudi Arabia and Qatar coming to the party, so there's a need to approximately frame and contextualize sports, whether be it sports business events, sports asset ownership, and even sports diplomacy, right? So, and these activities are amplified, as you can see, with China's stadium diplomacy in Africa, China building stadia across Africa, engendering development of sports, and of course advancing its own geopolitical objectives. All right, and of course you see that you have U.S.-led investment in sports. You have quite a number of U.S. companies investing in European, viable European sporting organizations. Okay, and even the Chelsea that I talked about was actually bought by a U.S.-led investment group. All right, and you also look at the role Switzerland is playing in sports governance with reputable international sporting organizations situated in Switzerland, like FIFA and the likes. Yes, I think that we'll be drawing the curtains on today's episode at this juncture, and I believe that the time you've spent with me has been worthwhile. And like I always like to remind you that at Amogate we are always ready to help and support your organizations to work optimally, creating frameworks and processes for optimization of resources and attainment of goals. You can contact us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at Amogate, and you can call us on +234 810 999 666. You can also visit our website at www.thearmorgate.org. Our email is contact@thearmorgate.org. I want to leave you with my own words. The geopolitical economy is political realism. And with that, it's been my pleasure. Until I come upon your devices again, it's bye for now. Thank you.